Hello, and welcome to Short Stories, a web series produced by the National Taichung University of Science and Technology Language Center. The short story we will read today is based on an ancient epic poem called the Aeneid. It recounts the story of the legendary hero Aeneas and his epic journey to Italy. The poem was written by Virgil sometime around 20 BC. I find this poem very interesting because it's actually a very elegant piece of political propaganda. Aeneas was an obscure character from an even older poem called the Iliad. Virgil took this character and created a foundation myth for the Roman Empire. It also promotes traditional Roman virtues and explains the origins of Rome's conflict with its arch-rival, Carthage. This is all, of course, fiction, but it is still a darn good story. The poem was divided into 12 books. Today's story will only cover the first 4. I hope you enjoy it. Vocabulary: vex, vex. A swarm of mosquitoes vexed the campers. Prophecy, prophecy. The prophecy says that he will bring balance to the force. Refugee, refugee. About 4 million refugees fled the war in Syria. Concord, concord. The two tribes live together in concord. Smooch, smooch. Romeo and Juliet smooched under the moonlight. PDA, PDA. Public display of affection. The rules regarding PDA are different in each country. Duty, duty. It is the duty of every police officer to protect the citizens. Come hell or high water. Come hell or high water. Come hell or high water, we will send Elon Musk to Mars. The story. Aeneas was a general in the Trojan army. He served bravely and valiantly, but he could not prevent Troy's doom. The sneaky Greeks had tricked them into taking into their city a statue of a horse. The Trojans had mistaken this as a peace offering. But during the night a small band of Greek soldiers emerged from the hollow interior of the horse and opened the gate. The entire Greek army flooded the city, killing everyone they could get their hands on. Aeneas barely made it out alive. He managed to save his son and his aged father, whom he carried on his back as he fled the burning city. Sadly, he was not able to save his wife. Aeneas joined up with a group of survivors, and they boarded the last 7 ships of the Trojan fleet. They set sail, not knowing where they were going. At first it looked like smooth sailing, which was a relief to the beleaguered refugees. But the goddess Juno had other plans. She sent storms to harass and vex the poor Trojans. She sought to destroy them, or at least stymie their journey. There was a prophecy among the gods that the descendants of Troy would one day establish a great empire that would destroy the city of Carthage. "Carthage is my beloved city," cried Juno. "I cannot allow these Trojans to reach the shores of Italy." Fortunately for the Trojans, they were saved from total destruction by the god Neptune, who heard the savage storms and rose from his watery throne. "What's all this about? Who authorized this storm?" shouted Neptune. He then used his trident to calm the seas and dissipate the storm. "I give the orders around here," muttered Neptune as he dipped below the waves. Aeneas was chosen to be captain of the lead ship, and he guided the weary fleet to the nearest bit of land, which happened to be Libya. Once on dry land, the Trojans began tending to the wounded, mending the ships, and preparing dinner. Aeneas, being their leader, decided to boost morale with a little speech. He said, "Don't let your past troubles discourage you. Endure and conquer. Jupiter has assigned us a glorious destiny." As he said this, he couldn't help but think of his wife and all the friends he had lost during the war. Meanwhile, on Mount Olympus, Aeneas's mother, Venus, was pleading with Jupiter, the king of the gods. "O king of gods and men," she began, "have you forgotten your promise? You assured me that my son would be the founder of the greatest empire the world has ever known. How can you let them suffer like this?" Jupiter smiled and replied, "Don't worry, dear daughter. Everything is going exactly as it should." Venus was still worried, so Jupiter agreed to send the messenger god to tell the Carthaginians to help the Trojans. While Jupiter's messenger was speaking to the queen of Carthage, Venus went herself to speak to Aeneas. She told him to go to Carthage for supplies. "Queen Dido rules there," she said. "She is like you, a leader of poor refugees. You can trust her." Aeneas was skeptical, but decided to follow her advice. When Aeneas arrived in Carthage, he was shocked by how warm a welcome he received. Queen Dido invited him into the palace and said, "Honored guest, welcome to Carthage. How may I be of service to you?" Aeneas gave her a list of items that he and his compatriots needed. She said, "Whatever you need, you shall have. Come dine with me." During dinner, Aeneas told the tragic story of Troy and the plight of the refugees. Dido listened intently, entranced by his words. After they had eaten their fill, Queen Dido stood up and gave a toast. "O hospitable Jupiter, we invoke your name with these solemn words. May the descendants of Troy and the descendants of Carthage live in perpetual concord." She sipped her cup of wine and handed it to Aeneas, who drained the cup. It was at that moment that Queen Dido realized that she had fallen madly in love with Aeneas. As a token of her love, she gave him a jewel-encrusted dagger. "It's almost as beautiful as you," declared Aeneas. Aeneas and Dido did not know this, but their love was not a happy accident. Juno had sent Cupid to strike Dido with one of his arrows, guaranteeing she would fall in love with Aeneas. "Now that they are in love," said Juno, "Aeneas will choose to stay in Carthage and never go to Italy. The prophecy will never come true." Aeneas lived with Dido in her palace. They spent every waking moment together. During royal council meetings, they would get distracted as they looked into each other's eyes. At public ceremonies, they held hands. And at dinner time, they kept smooching in between courses. "Ugh," said one dinner guest to another. "This is way too much PDA. I've lost my appetite." The more in love Aeneas and Dido became, the more the court ministers gossiped and complained. "The king of the Numidians will flip out when he hears about this," said the agriculture minister. "He's been trying to arrange a marriage with Queen Dido for years," said the navy minister. "Maybe it's time we have a new monarch," suggested the prime minister. They decided at once to send a letter to the king of the Numidians. Back on Olympus, Jupiter sat pensively on his throne. "What's taking Aeneas so long?" he said as he checked his sundial. "He should have been in Italy a month ago." After some inquiry, Jupiter discovered the reason for the delay. No, this will not do," he said. "Mercury, go down to Earth and remind Aeneas of his duty." Mercury saluted his king and flew as fast as he could for Carthage. Mercury found Aeneas while he was out hunting. He plopped himself directly in Aeneas's path and announced, "Foolish human! The mighty Jupiter has ordained that you should continue to Italy." Aeneas asked, "Why Italy?" Mercury explained, "Your grandchildren, Romulus and Remus, are destined to found a city there that will one day rule the world." Aeneas stood silently for a second before he said, "Wow, I knew I was destined for big things, but I didn't know they were that big." Mercury stepped closer to Aeneas and said, "That is why you must go as soon as possible. Do your duty, Aeneas. Make your grandfather Jupiter proud." Mercury then disappeared back into the blue sky. Aeneas returned to the city with new determination. He was going to Italy, come hell or high water. As he was preparing his things for departure, he thought of Dido. "How will I explain this to her?" he thought. "She'll never accept this." Aeneas decided to prepare for his journey in secret. He sent messages to the rest of the Trojans to tell them to get the ships ready. Meanwhile, he acted as if everything was normal. Aeneas did not act well enough, for Dido soon figured out that he was up to something. After some investigating, she learned about his scheme to leave her. "Gods, no!" she cried. She fell into a frenzy of emotions. She frantically ran about the palace looking for Aeneas. She wailed and moaned and wept. Finally, she collected enough of her senses to confront Aeneas face to face. She began, "You ungrateful wretch! Did you really think you could just leave me like this?" Aeneas stared coldly at her. He was so dedicated to his mission that he did not allow himself to be swayed. He swallowed all his sympathy for his lover and said, "I am compelled by fate. It would be wrong of me to go against the will of the gods. I cannot stay." Dido's anger turned into panic, and she started pleading with him, but he was unmoved. When she saw that her efforts were futile, Dido's mood changed once more. This time she was as coldly resolute as Aeneas. She said, "Then go if you must. Leave the woman who aided you when you were most in need. But know this, my ghost will haunt you for the rest of your days." Dido then turned and walked out of the room. That evening, more terrible news arrived for Queen Dido. The king of the Numidians was marching an army toward Carthage. He was angry that Dido had taken a lover after telling him that she had vowed to never marry. "That lying witch!" he cried. "I'll march to the gates of Carthage and demand she marry me." Dido's royal guard was alerted and rushed about the streets. Meanwhile, Aeneas met the other Trojans at the docks. They were loading the ships with supplies and preparing to board. Aeneas took one look back and saw a huge column of smoke rising from the palace courtyard. He couldn't help but feel pity for the woman that he left behind. The source of that smoke was unknown to Aeneas. Dido had taken all of the things that Aeneas had left behind, his clothes, his hunting equipment, and even the bed that they had shared, and thrown these into a big pile in the middle of the palace courtyard. She instructed her guard to light it on fire at her command. Slowly and solemnly she climbed to the top of the pile and pulled out the dagger that she had given Aeneas on the first night they had met. As she held the dagger high, she made this curse: "May the descendants of Carthage and the descendants of Troy live in perpetual hate." Dido gave the signal to light the fire and then plunged the dagger into her own chest. Juno, who was watching this event unfold from heaven, took pity on Dido. She used her magic to remove all pain from Dido's body, so that she died peacefully and quickly. Above the dead queen's body, bright colors appeared in the sky. It was an aurora sent by Juno. "I thus devote thee to the dead," said the queen of Olympus. She then bowed her head and whispered, "I'm sorry." Questions. Number 1. Why did Aeneas and the other Trojans become refugees? A. They got tired of living in Troy. B. Troy was destroyed. C. They were kicked out of Troy. D. They thought it would be fun. The answer is B. Troy was destroyed. Question 2. What was the prophecy? A. Aeneas will be the founder of a great empire. B. Dido will kill Aeneas. C. Aeneas and Dido will get married. D. Aeneas will die in Carthage. The answer is A. Aeneas will be the founder of a great empire. Question 3. Why didn't Juno like the prophecy? A. It was too long. B. It said that Carthage will be destroyed. C. It said that Dido will be more beautiful than her. D. It said that Aeneas will bring balance to the force. The answer is B. It said that Carthage will be destroyed. Question 4. Why did Juno say sorry at the end? A. She was late for dinner. B. She forgot her homework. C. Her actions led to Dido's death. D. Juno couldn't keep Aeneas in Carthage. The answer is C. Her actions led to Dido's death.